Okay, you got it. Hey there guys, this is going to be part 3 of the DIY chicken coop build. And as you can see, I've got the chicken coop run finished, and if you look real closely, you'll see little chickens walking around. So it's pretty much a functional coop now. I still have a long way to go with the rainwater, solar, electric fence, all that other kind of fun stuff I like to do. But for now, I'm going to be building the run and kind of showing you how I did it. It's got a little roof section on it that will eventually collect rainwater. So that is pretty much it. Let's get into the build, and before we do, I also want to say thanks to the Home Depot Prospective and Ryobi Power Tools for sponsoring this build.
Right
there, so put it right there. Okay. Right there. All right. The thing about Arizona soil is that the first few inches are just like any other soil. The next few inches, you gotta soften it up with water. And everything else, you gotta use a big old heavy 40-pound digger bar like this just to get through the rock. And real quick, before I start mixing this concrete, I want to say thank you to my buddy Charles in France. He sent me this cool custom bandana. He makes various things out of beeswax, like candles and different things like that. It's got cool little custom bees. So anyway, thanks Charles, appreciate it. While I always like to use a string line to make sure everything is nice and lined up, I also like to make sure visually it looks perfect too, just by moving my eye over those posts, and you can see they line up just about perfect with the corner edge of the coop. And the other side should be no different. All 3 posts perfectly lined up with the edge of the coop. And you can also see it's lined up with the garden fence. So you probably noticed the black color on the bottoms of these posts. This is a little experiment I'm trying out with some used motor oil that I've thinned down with mineral spirits to see if I can treat the bottom of the posts so they'll hold up a little bit better below ground level. But I have one concern, that the paint will not be able to adhere as well, even though it feels like it's cured up pretty nicely. So I'm just going to use an oil-based primer to go over this before I add the yellow color that I painted the rest of the coop with. And fingers crossed, hopefully that'll work out pretty well. And as luck would have it, you probably heard the clouds rumbling in the background. Those are the mountains behind our house, which you can normally see the silhouette of, but there looks like a pretty big monsoon storm coming. Looks like the storm is definitely coming, so I may have to redo some of this. But real quick, I just wanted to show you one thing. I ended up spraying all of these little brackets, and that is because they were originally made for 2x4s, and I cut about 1 inch off of them. So I just wanted to cut or cover the cut side just to kind of protect it from rusting. Well, the hardware cloth is finally installed, and I gotta say that was definitely the most tedious part of this entire coop build. Even worse than digging those post holes. It's just a long drawn out task, and I think I fired maybe 750 to maybe 800 or 900 of those staples to install this hardware cloth. But it is a pretty simple task. You just cut it to the right size. I did everything in sections, so I just cut that rectangle out and then installed it with the staples. And the next step of this, as you can see, is going to be covering this with about 3 to 4 inches of this dirt that I dug out, and then I will coat everything with those rocks. And if it doesn't look like that extends out far enough, some of you may remember from my previous coop build, I still have maybe 5 or 6 inches down chicken wire that extends about 3 feet. So basically there is 2 layers of protection. And then once I get that done, you can see I have a little angled roof section. I'm gonna install a few roof panels on that, and that will support the eventual rainwater harvesting system that will tie into the gutters that I put on the main coop roof. Well, the entry gate to the coop run is nearly finished. I'm just waiting for the glue to dry, and then I will add some paint and the hardware cloth on the other side. It's flipped over right now in the manner that it will be facing towards the outside of the coop run. And then after that, I will add hinges on this side and then the closing or locking hardware on that side. Okay, you got him. All right, take him. That's the first one.
Olive, leave it.
You got him.
There you go.
Well, now that the chicken run is complete and all of the chickens have been transferred out of that little shanty town I had them in, this is almost a completely functional coop. However, like always, there are still things that I have yet to do. But now I'm going to give you a quick little walk around just to cover some of the things that I might not have covered during the building of this, and then I will let you guys go. Okay, so the first thing that I'll talk about is the roof. I didn't really cover too much of the framing of that, but it is approximately 8 foot wide by 8 foot long, and that will eventually tie into the rainwater harvesting system when I get around to building it. And there's nothing really special. I used old scrap roofing panels that I had from when my house got re-roofed. And then the other thing I didn't cover are these two diagonal pieces. You may have remembered that from my previous coop version, and those are actually the same exact pieces of wood, so they are, I don't know, several years old, but I coated them with a new coat of paint. Anyway, those will eventually be getting a roost that goes about right here, and then a roost will go between those two lower members, and that will just allow the chickens to have some shaded outdoor roosting space. You can see I've got a water hanging up and the feeder I made a while back. But one thing to note is that will eventually be getting sold or given away because I will be doing a water system setup like I had in the previous version of the coop that will tie off of that rain barrel over there. And perhaps that might even get upgraded to an IBC tote. Not sure. But the rest of it is pretty much just all those posts and the mesh. One thing I did want to make note of is that I went ahead and added some acrylic in there for the window. I told you guys I was going to have the mesh, but I had the acrylic on hand and I just felt like I wanted that a little extra rain protection. And the window on this side just got the mesh that I mentioned I was going to add for the ventilation. And I ended up making one mistake. I forgot to take the longer staples out when I stapled it in. So that was a 7/8 inch long staple that I used to attach the rest of this hardware cloth. And I think that's pretty much it for the outside. I'll take you inside to show you what is up next. See if these chickens don't panic too much. And moving back towards the coop and what will be on the next part of this chicken coop series. You can probably already tell the first thing, I do not have the flooring finished yet. I just have the little purlin boards installed, and eventually this will just be covered in corrugated vinyl flooring with plywood on this side so that I can set heavy things on, but the rest of it can just be sprayed out with a hose. But I do have the boards that will serve as the mounting brackets for the eventual roost spaces. I just need to find some nice rounded logs or tree branches that I can mount to those. But for now, I think the chickens will just be using these as roosting spaces. And then the last thing or the main thing of the next video is going to be installing that automatic chicken door right here, putting a little ramp in, and then also perhaps installing an automatic chicken door there or some other place for days that we want to let them free range. Alright guys, that is pretty much going to do it for this video, and as I always like to say, I hope it was informative or at the very least entertaining, although I'm not sure how entertaining digging post holes and setting posts in concrete is, but perhaps you gained some sort of knowledge, or maybe it gave you an idea about a project you might have coming up. As for the next parts in this, I mentioned I'm going to be doing the automatic chicken door, and I briefly mentioned the rainwater harvesting and solar electric fence and different things like that. That is all coming, but at least these first 3 videos really you know, it's basically a functional coop now. But anyway, the next one will be the automatic chicken door, and then you see the barrel behind me. I'll hook up the watering system, a similar version that I had before, and that will also tie into a rainwater harvesting system. And then, I don't know, whatever else. But as always, I appreciate you guys watching. Hope you're doing well in this crazy world, and I will see you next time.